All right, so the Bills now have $10 million in salary cap space because we have passed June 1st, and they designated Tre'Davious White, their former All-Pro cornerback, as a post-June 1st cut when they did it all of those months ago back in March. The reason they did that was because this was going to kind of spread out the cap savings that they got, and it was going to open this up as we get closer to now the start of mandatory minicamp, which is next week, and then ultimately training camp down the road. Now, because the Bills were so up against the cap, this move saved them $10 million. According to salary cap website SpotTrack, the Bills now have in cap space $10.1 million. So basically, all the cap space that they have left is because of this move that they did a couple months ago. Now, when they were doing all of their math and all of the additions that they've made, that was surely a factor here. They knew what they were operating with, and they knew that this was going to be the money that they ultimately would be getting on their books or taking off their books in this instance. But what are they going to do with this salary cap space that they now have it? I think there's two ways we can look at this. The first one is kind of the boring, lame way, and the second one is the, okay, that's fun, let's speculate about what they do. The first one is, do they just save this money? Right? Like, they're going to need more money at some point, whether it's an addition that they want to make from a player that gets cut from a team during training camp that they didn't anticipate would get cut, or if they want to have flexibility as we get closer to the season, or do they want to go and try and make a move like they did last year with Leonard Floyd? Now, there's not really any Leonard Floyds out there on the market, specifically with the pass rushers that are still available, not guys who have proven success in the league and had success recently. There's a couple guys who had good years. Carl Lawson is a name that comes to mind. Yannick Ngakoue is another name that comes to mind. But they're coming off of lackluster seasons in 2023. So I don't think there's a player out there that would command the entire $10 million that the Bills have cleared up. The other factor here is that the Bills still need to sign their rookie class. That should take up about $3 to $4 million. But the interesting thing here, and this is just a lot of like salary cap mumbo jumbo, only the top 51 salaries count right now to the cap. So some of those rookies that sign their deals won't even fall in that top 51. So the Bills really ultimately have, let's say, $8.5, $9, somewhere in that range, $1 million in salary cap space that they can use. They can, of course, manipulate the salary cap in a lot of different ways, just like every team can. When they signed Leonard Floyd last year, the guy we just mentioned, there were a couple void years on his deal. I think he's got void years on his deal now currently with the San Francisco 49ers. That's just a way that a team can really spread out their money a little bit better, a way of working around the cap. I'll just say this in conclusion, though. This entire offseason has been about the Bills kind of reworking their salary cap to make sure that they are not in a long-term problem, that they have freedom and flexibility moving forward. I cannot imagine now being the time where they say, well, we got $10 million, we're going to go make some blockbuster move, or we're going to trade for some big-time player because we can more likely fit it into our cap right now. I don't see that happening. I think the Bills are going to go out and sign a couple more veterans. I think they're going to sign their rookies. Obviously, they're going to do that anyway. And they're going to save a little bit of money for a rainy day or for potentially Micah Hyde if he decides that he does want to play football in 2024. If Micah Hyde is playing football, I don't think that this is a big contract. I think this is a, hey, Micah, we'll give you $1 million, $1.5 million to come play for one more season, have a role on this team, try and win a Super Bowl, and then call it a career. So I think that the Bills will do something. I just don't think that they will be making a massive splash. But they do have money to spend, and it's the first time that they've had money to spend in a little while here. So I'd expect something to happen. I just don't know the magnitude of it. The positions I think we could pay attention to, like I mentioned, defensive end is a position that I think they will very likely target. Cornerback is another interesting one. That one all comes down to, what do they think of Kaiir Elam? Do they trust Kaiir Elam enough to be their third corner, or would they like to go out and get somebody? There's some really good corners left still on the market, but they're corners that I think will start, and I don't think the Bills are bringing in someone to start ahead of Rasul Douglas or ahead of Christian Benford. I think they like those two guys. Maybe they would go out and sign a depth guy, a number 3 guy, and then the only other position that I can think of, the wide receiver market is pretty bare. There's really not much there. So I don't think that they're going to sign anybody wide receiver. I don't think they're obviously signing anybody at tight end. I don't think they're signing anybody at running back. I don't think they're signing anybody at quarterback. So offensively, the only thing I could think of would be maybe left guard. But it seems like they trust David Edwards, and it feels like they're fully embracing Connor McGovern playing center. That's the transition they've already made. So I don't think they would go back to, all right, McGovern, you're at left guard, we're going to go find a center to replace Mitch. I just don't see that happening. Maybe left guard, so I would say the positions they're most likely to spend their money on would be defensive ends number 1, cornerback number 2, and then we'll say left guard number 3. But I'm not expecting any massive splashes. Brandon Beane, he could always surprise us, but we shall see. As for a look at where things stand right now, 1 week of OTAs left. These are voluntary workouts. Next week, mandatory minicamp. And then the Bills are basically off until training camp starts on July 23rd at St. John Fisher College. We'll talk to you guys soon.